Welcome to the very first episode of DRIVA Deep Dive. We are excited to start this journey with Thomas Bode, the Chief Digital Transformation Officer at the Met Group. Thomas is a recognized thought leader with deep expertise in guiding businesses through complex digital transformations. With a background in finance and M&A, combined with his leadership roles at Swarovski and the Met Group, Thomas brings a unique perspective on the intersection of data, processes, technology, and strategy. In this episode, we explore Thomas' core philosophy built on four essential dimensions: process, people, data, and technology. His approach is not just theoretical. He shares real-world experiences from transforming the business intelligence function at Swarovski to driving large-scale innovation at the Met Group. We also dive into how data and analytics is perceived at the executive level, the challenges of elevating data-driven initiatives to the C-suite, and why metadata management is critical for ensuring a smooth communication across teams. I am thrilled to have Thomas as our guest because he exemplifies the perfect balance between technical expertise and strategic leadership, making this a valuable episode for anyone navigating the digital transformation space. So sit back and enjoy the insights and get ready for an engaging conversation. So here it is, the very first episode of DRIVA Deep Dive with Thomas Bode. Welcome everyone to today's podcast. And today we are in the beautiful city of Zurich with our special guest Thomas. And like on every podcast episode, we start with a fun fact about a river that is close to the city where we are. So a river that is close to Zurich. And I don't know, you probably know the river Limmat.
The Limmat. It could be the Sil, Limmat, right?
The Limmat, yeah. I did a little bit of research and I found out that scientifically, you can't really trace back how old the river is, but it's approximately 10 to 12,000 years old. Yeah, so it goes really back to the last ice age. Yeah, and human beings have always utilized it. And what I found interesting was that in the 15 BC, the Roman Empire used it as a trading melting pot kind of. And they were controlling financially all the trades and movements of people. And that brings me to you, since you have a history in finance. And but you started in finance.
Correct.
And merger and acquisition a decade ago, right?
A bit more, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you were...
More 2 decades than 1 decade.
More than a decade, yeah.
More than a decade.
But I can claim, at least that I have the perception that you are really a thought leader in a way if it comes to digitalization and especially in data analytics management. I think also that you were quite fast in thinking about the topic more also in other areas such as combining it with process management, IT management or application management. And so in that sense, you always thought about it from a much bigger perspective than just on the data and analytics. So at least this is what when I look on your biography or your vita, was kind of significant to me. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree to you. It's a good presentation that you have made, because I think that indeed, I don't know if I'm a thought leader, but I like to think about what is the problem of the problem, right? So always to go one step back intellectually, I think it's interesting. So indeed, I studied finance, and when I started finance, I realized that what I studied was not necessarily what was really helping solving the problems, but the problems that we had was just, for instance, how to gather a budget, how to deal with the data that we collect, right? That it's for the financial closing, for the budget, for whatever. And this is where I thought, okay, there must be a much more efficient way to handle all this data. So it started with the scope of finance. We're still having the alibi of doing controlling, consolidation, and so on. And then basically I said, okay, there is a real discipline in that, right? At the time, I didn't even know it was called data analytics, right? We were still talking about reporting, about how to manage data, information, and then it shaped, right? And of course, when you realize that information is completely connecting the dots between all functions, then of course you don't want to be only supporting one of them, right? You want to connect the dots and create that. And then comes the question of how you create data and how you use information. And data is just generated by processes. So if you want to also control the quality of the data that you generate, you must also have an impact on the processes themselves, right? And of course, data is carried by IT applications, so also you better have your IT application in a good shape. So this is why today we have combined all these, right? And this is what we call digital transformation. So process management, data management, analytics, IT architecture, and also project management, because all this transformation happen only through projects, right? So this is the very brief summary of my job actually.
Yes, and you say it's a brief summary, but there's so much behind it. And then what you just said is that at that time, no one really called it really specifically data management or analytics management. So now when we look in the industry or on academic research, we see quite a lot of papers produced or best practices published and so on. But at that time, I think people need to realize that at that time there was nothing. So you really, that's why I said thought leader. You really had to think about what does it mean. And would you say that your time in a financial department or dealing with financial capabilities and processes helped you to understand also then better what is required in building up data management or analytics management services?
I think so, because I think, as you said, right, the capabilities were not there, the knowledge was not there. So this is also a cool thing, right? Is that we have also the feeling sometimes to be a bit R&D, function, right? Because we develop on the fly and we create concepts which didn't really exist before. And that's really, for me, it's a very motivating and a really fun thing to do, right? And indeed, starting with finance, where basically information is the bread and butter, even if people might not say it like this, right? Because of course, money is the heart of it. But the reality is that every flows is just about information, right? And data moving from one place to another. So this was basically a very good laboratory to test, right? All the concepts and to build them. And it really came from a very, very hands-on, right, approach. So it was just, okay, we have all this data in Excel and, and you start by learning how to make formulas, and then you say, but hold on, there is something more to be done there, right? I should have architecture. I should separate my master data from my fact table, and all the concepts that today you will implement on a super large scale, in Databricks or Snowflake. You start to learn them really, and from there, right, from very, very small, and from learning also by failing at the beginning, right, because it absorbs a lot of time. And this is basically if you have this ambition, right, to scale and to make things, to automate, and all this gives you the power, the motivation, right, to explore this. And then came data quality, right, how to guarantee that you provide proper information, right? And then, okay, so you need to go always one step back, and one step back. And for me, this has been the big turnaround, right? 10 years ago, really to start to develop the entire concept of data management. This is what also brought us to know each other, right? Exactly. Because then you want to know how other people do it. And this was a big step for me in my career.
But I have to ask you, because now when you also explain it, I can sense the resilience that is needed to develop into that direction. So what was really your motivation to leave the path of working in a, let's say, more narrowed or focused financial career into a really broad and changing area, which is data analytics management? So what was really your motivation to move into data analytics?
I think this was my the almost a feeling, a sensation, right? That is where I could make the impact, right? I didn't probably, maybe I was not so, I mean, it started very early, right, in my career, right? I was like only a few months, right, in a job, and then already I was the one managing these issues, even if I had no titles and nothing like that, but I was the one managing these issues, and I could see that I could make the life of my colleagues or some other people in the company easier like that. When on the other side of it, right, on the pure finance and controlling, the task looked to me repetitive, maybe because I was not outstanding, or maybe because I was not creative enough to on that side. But on the data, on managing how we were collecting the data, how we were providing the information, I could see that I was making a step change, right, compared to what was done before. So this is what drove me. And then the more you research, the more you want to apply it as well, right? So then you ask for resource, you ask for focus, and for me at the beginning it was just about focusing less and less on the repetitive closing task of finance, typical, right? And then to invest more and more into developing projects, to train people how to handle better data and to create information, how to provide, initially it was just a database with several pivots, and then it starts to become a proper tool and so on, and over years it grows, right? But this was the path.
Yeah, I mean I can relate to what you're saying. So if I think back, for me it was also a drive or something that told me, okay, I want to go to the source of improving capabilities, processes, the life of the colleagues, as you mentioned. And I thought like, okay, there's more chance to do it. So I also started in cracking numbers, creating financial reports. And then I said like, okay, that's not really where I see myself. And then I made also this change. But it was never an easy path. So people assume always it's very much about methods in a way. It's more about you need to know how to calculate or to create reports. But would you say this is really the most important skill set that you need, or is it rather more on other areas? Especially if you need to interact with people from financial units, divisions, and first of all assessing what they really need. So is it the number part or the hard skills, or is it rather more soft skills that?
I think the more you develop, the more you become global, right? And the large scale you have and the large impact you have, the more you need to develop what is called soft skills, right? Which is really your communication, your change management, building trust, relationship. That's extremely important. At the beginning, as you are part of the group, right? And you know the process completely, then you are just solving the issues. So everyone loves you, right? There is no problem at that moment in terms of change management. It's very easy in a way, right? Because you take something which is a burden, and then you come back and it looks pretty and it's automated, and people say, wow, what a smart boy. I mean, and it's good. And then you want to do it on a large scale, and then it's not anymore like this, because you cannot own all the processes, or let's say know all the processes. You cannot define all the data yourself, so you need networks for that, right? You need networks to manage your processes, you need networks to manage your data. And basically here you start to tell people, listen, now you need to hold this role, you need to define this and so on, and say, so you don't solve it for me. No, sorry, we are solving it together. And this is where basically the pushback starts, right? And this is what I hear still today, right? Quite sometimes. So it's not your team who's solving it. No, we solve it together. We bring you a set of skills that was not there, and we need your skills, your core skills about the process that you own. And we are going to marry them, and we are going to create a better process by managing data, by creating an access to information. So this is where, of course, it's much harder to sell, right? Going forward, and this is where you need these skills, basically.
At Swarovski, you had the task to build up really from scratch data, analytics, and also, infrastructure-wise. Now at Met, your scope got broader. You are now a chief transformation officer. Digital transformation officer, very important. And now you have also, as you mentioned before, you look into processes, you look also in project management, IT application, so it's a broader scope. Now, when you engage with colleagues from the C-level, and you just talked about perception and pointing out that people assume, oh, you fix it, How is it now based on your experience also at the two companies, or even also when you talk to other colleagues working in that industry or in that field, how would you say is the perception on the C-level if it comes in general to data analytics management or data-driven digital transformation? Would you say that there is an understanding of what that really requires?
Not really. To be honest, it is a journey, right? Yeah. So the important part is to, and this was my starting point at Met, to start with a kind of problem statement, right? We have an issue. We are a 15 years old company. Yeah. That was the time when I joined the company. So a teenager, right? Yeah. And we have gone a great way to grow and to develop basically, our businesses really in a very successful manner. And now basically, how do we get to the next level, right? So the one where we are really scaling, where we are really excellent in running our operations. And thanks to that, we can really, really expand even more, right? So this was the starting point. And there was an understanding that the technology was not fit, right? That was the perception more than the understanding, right? But the reality is, of course, more difficult than that, right? The reality is that the processes are not there to scale. The reality is that the data is not managed, and the reality as well is that the information was very hard to access. So this was the starting point, and basically you have to show this, right? And you have to show also a kind of compelling path to basically something better. And for us at Med, the major driver was the access to information, right? So the idea that we collect a lot of data through the different processes that we have. It is also a data-driven business in a way, and basically this must be much easier to access. And this was a huge motivation for launching the entire digital transformation. I said, okay, if we do it, we do it for the next 2 years, but also for the future, right? Because we are here to stay. I'm talking about Met now. So then we want to have something which is scalable, which is sustainable. So we are working on also our ways of working, because ultimately the first element of the digital transformation is people, right? Yeah. This is one thing that also we repeat again and again from the beginning. People, process, data / information, technology, right? Technology comes at the last piece. The first one is the people. And the people is, of course, so you will have the early adopters, you will have the people who will wait and see, and you will have the detractors. And the goal is to move everyone, if I was starting from the left, to start from right to left.
I like that you say that people are the first, because most of the time it is a technological aspect which makes people think, especially on a management level, of, oh, we need to change. They say like, oh, we need to now, for example, is about artificial intelligence. Oh, we need to take the chance to use artificial intelligence. So they come with the perception that the technology is the driving force. But the way you say it, you say, no, it's actually not. It's the last aspect of it. It's more about people in the first place. People in the first place, in what sense exactly? What exactly do you need to address, especially on a board level, so that they understand and have trust in what you are saying? Because you come in, you said it, you came in and you pointed out to them some challenges or that you want to tackle, or that you want to use maybe also as opportunities. So trusting your judgment. Now you can obviously have a record of success. but it's still on a human scale or on a human part. What is it that where you say like that is important in the interaction with especially a C-level? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first, let's say, your experience, and for instance, in that case, presenting a little bit how at Swarovski we had made a step change in how we access the information and how we drive the quality of this information. This buys you, the fact to be there to be there at the first place, right? Yeah. But it doesn't grant you any success in the future collaboration, right? It's just that it makes that people give you some space and time to talk and to explain what you want to do, right? So people first, there are two ways that I would like to explore. First is that why people first? Because people have to change as well. They have to change their ways of working. Not they don't have to change themselves, but they have to change their ways of working, their ways of also making decisions, right? So this is a big thing. And usually people are not expressing that needs at all, right? They don't tell you, well, we have to change. No, it's that something has to change, something has to be developed new, right? But it's not only new, it's also, it's going to ravel down on everything that we do today. So there is a transformation. That's why we call it digital transformation, right? It's not digitalization, it's digital transformation.
Exactly.
That's important. And the second thing, why people first? Because you need to have governance for what you do. If you start any transformational project, right? So I'm talking not about the small, very small things where you can somehow close the gaps in a way which is not efficient but can still work. If you want to transform an operational process, you need to have the process owner define and the process owner at the table and engage, right? If not, it just simply doesn't work. And this is also my experience now in the last 2 years, is that whenever there is collaboration, meaning that people are willing and engaging into the roles that are assigned to them, it works, independently of how complex and how difficult the ground is. If we don't have this engagement, this is stuck. This gets stuck very fast, right? So this is basically why people first.
You just mentioned that governance plays an important role or part in the digital transformation. Is that a reason, or let me, two questions here. Is that the reason why you were looking forward to a role of Chief Digital Transformation Officer? Because, and now the second part, now you're not only dealing with data analytics information, let's say that way, because now you're also in the position where you establish governance for processes, IT applications, project management, so much more. And was that something which you brought to the table, this thought, or was it something that has been, in the first place already proposed to you?
So definitely the first. Definitely. So I brought it, and I say, if we want to achieve that objectives, we need to manage processes, we need to manage data, we need to create a proper access to information, right? So this was the full pack or nothing, right? Just to be very clear. That was discussion, and this was understood and this was accepted. So I was very lucky in that, and we started really from ground zero. So this was also amazing. This also makes the experience very exciting, right? Because also, at this stage of my career, I already a bit of a network, so we can bring people that you trust and that are also following the same vision, and so this definitely has built up. Your question was regarding if my experience in terms of data management brought me also even more willingness to focus on process management, on IT governance as well, and so on. Definitely, because if you apply a full scheme, the full schema of data management roles, you realize that obviously it crosses with process management roles and IT application roles. Very simple example: as soon as you have defined your data, you want to know what is the life cycle, right? Which process is creating it, which process is using it, for instance, right? And the same, which IT application is creating it, which IT applications are using it. And basically for that, you need to combine this. And this is what we are doing. This is what we have done, right? We created networks. So we have a network to manage data, we have a network to manage processes, we have a network to manage IT applications, some few more. Yeah. And basically we also combine them into what we call digital excellence networks. Yeah. And all these roles, it's a bit mind-blowing, right, for our users. And we don't, let's say, push it in a way that, we try to explain everything to everyone. That will not work. But what we do is that we apply it. So we make sure that the team understands it. Of course, the digital transformation office must be a master of that. Yeah. And then we apply it, and then we use it, and then people understand then how it connects, right? Yeah. Through their question about their process, through the question about one data, through some investigation, and then they see, okay, so in the back, because we know the organization, right? We know the people organization, but there are other organizations somehow, right? There are other networks to manage the assets, right? Your HR organization chart is how you structure the people in a company, right? But it doesn't match one-to-one how to organize data, how to organize processes, how to organize IT application, for instance, right? So this is where basically these networks to make them from implicit to explicit make a huge difference.
Yeah. For me, the question is really, because now you are a chief digital transformation officer, and outside or in the field of data analytics management, there's still quite heavily the conversation of what C-level is the right one to represent this discipline on the top management. So we hear now about roles called chief data officer, chief data analytics officer. Now we have even considering a chief AI officer and so on. So from your understanding and your experience, would you say a role such as those mentioned would support establishing the disciplines? Is it even something mandatory, or is it?
That's a good question. I think yes, it's an accelerator. Yeah. Or it's an enabler. And again, what is important is that you can build these roles at different levels, right? If you don't get, let's say, the buy-in from the different level of organization, of course the C-level is important, but also at the lower level, right? Yeah. You remain somehow in a silo. Yeah. And as long as this is the deadly thing, right? That's why also for me it's very important that my team members, they get out of the team. Yeah. They get really connected with the rest of the organization, because if you remain in your box, you are dead, right? Basically, it simply doesn't work at all. Yeah. So that's the point, right? Is that you are called whatever, and you sit on the C-level. You need to be in contact with your sales, marketing, finance, HR, everyone you can, right? Because everyone has something to do with you, right? They might not know it yet, or they might be and you need to choose, right? The one that you say, okay, this one we have a lot of value to create together now, so let's put a bit more of attention on this one. This one is maybe not ready yet, right? There is too much reluctance, so let's try to infuse it a little bit. So you need to find basically your pace to get accepted and to create the collaboration in the organization. And at the end, you need to have a roadmap, right, which is agreed with the people, but you need also to be a bit opportunistic and see, okay, now we can do something because, again, the people, right? Because the people are ready for it. And that's usually what people don't really consider, right? So there are issues to be sorted out, or there are opportunities that we want to explore. Yeah. And basically, okay, how much does it cost? How long will it take to implement this, to do this, and so on? But the question, which is usually not really considered, is that how much effort and time do I need to bring the people to really embrace this, right? And this is usually the most difficult part of it.
I have definitely some follow-up questions to what you just said, but I would, first of all, I would like to point out that I agree with you. It's not really, you said, it's however you call that role, Yeah. So I agree to that. There is no right and wrong, I would say, calling it now CTO, CDOs, or something else. It's really about having someone that is driving that topic on that level. Yeah. So however you call it, I agree to that. And what I also agree to is also my experience is, at the end it needs anyway everyone on the board level. Yeah, because the processes will own the data, or the processes are using the data, the applications and so on. So it's it's not a one-way street in a way. Yeah, it's a give and take situation. So yeah, I like that. But now again, the question for me is, if I would be sitting in the board and then Thomas Bode comes and he explains everything to me and he comes with even evidence and examples, and then I buy in and say, okay, we do it. And then after some time, I see he's still busy with setting up the people aspect, yeah, which is roles, mindset, process, and so on. And I ask myself, would I get nervous? Yeah, in a point of, okay, yeah, we have a successful running company, yeah, and now someone comes and tells us you need to change for the future. And I think my revenue tells me something different. Yeah. And now this can you go a little bit deeper on maybe the expectation and maybe even misunderstandings that maybe were arising on your journey to establish, yeah, these different governance disciplines, yeah, and how the board was supporting you or maybe also challenging you and your approach, yeah, if it's even the right one or the suitable one.
Yeah. So basically here the challenge is that there is still, for me, in my most recent experience, there was still the idea, okay, it can be managed. You know, it's kind of you take a project, you do it, and you can deliver it, right? Yeah. We give you enough freedom and resource to do it as you want. We trust your expertise, but this is basically what we would like to achieve, and basically go and run it, right? And this component of really, you know, the collaboration which is required, right? This is something that has to be again and again emphasized, right? And this is why you need to share this knowledge. And this is where it's challenging. This is where you are challenged, because people say, okay, but it's not what I want, if you want, right? I'm not. And again, I'm making a general statement, right? It's much more. It depends on your stakeholders, right? I'm taking the most extreme, right? Where basically, well, nice that you tell me this, but my point is not to be educated on that. My point is to just get things done, right? And you say, yes, but for that, I need you to embrace these ways of working, because I need your people to contribute, right? And this is of course the part which is the most challenging. And then you start to develop all these concepts. You start to create exactly the network. So the good thing in that case for me is that we had a lot of knowledge, right? And this is the good thing as well, to my view, and this was also a satisfaction, that you can bring things even from very, very different environment, different company. If you have built it solid enough, if it's thought through enough, you can basically pass on from one place to another, right? So there is really something from method perspective, which is very interesting. That's what I told you before, right? This R&D thing, right? How we do data management is not written in the books, right? It's not a discipline like accounting, which is 600 years old, right? So you can still build the standards, and this standard you will validate the quality by being able to transpose them. So basically, having said that, you start to build all of this, and then you present this. And this is where the change management is very challenging, because it seems very abstract, right? And you talk abstract. And people say, okay, great, but when do I see it, right? When do I see something? And basically for me, we are, of course, this is why it's important to choose basically your projects. So you need to be able as well for those who will have more difficulties to follow you in this abstraction, that they see basically some developments, right? So I told you I have some background in finance. I have also some people in my team who are also very strong in this area, controlling consolidation. So one of the first projects that we did was to completely redesign the consolidation, the financial consolidation. And then this, in 6 months, we could bring something which was fully clean. And we were, let's say, limiting the risk of the stakeholders, because whatever we missed from the process owner, we could back it up ourselves, right? So this was a tactic to say, okay, after 6 months, we have something delivered. And then we found, for instance, with our treasury colleagues, a great collaboration, and there was really something important to achieve, and we fully team up. It was difficult, but it was good collaboration. And then it happened and said, okay, yes, I see. People have recognized now that things have changed in the area of treasury, for instance. And so on, right? So you need to get things. And now we are in the big topics, so really wide access to really broad and deep information. And now actually very recently we presented the first thing, and people, when finally they see the visualization objects, you can feel that there is a really, okay, so everything for that. And now I have I have something that looks exactly as what I want. And there you get, and in this credit, you will reinvest it, right? So this was also my experience with Swarovski. There, in addition, we had also the chance to also invest into data science, into AI, right? Especially in the regards of the customer centricity. And then you were developing something that people could understand, could absolutely recognize the value, and you reinvest basically this credibility, right? Into the things that people have more difficulties to perceive, but which are building your foundations more and more, right? And then when these foundations become really robust, then you start to be like a factory, right? So you produce, and then you really get the reward. But if you want to be, if you look for the applause on the short term, this is probably not the right job. You need time to make your space.
Yeah, I agree. You need time. I like it with the applause. But so basically, you used the concept of having a roadmap, and highlighting their outcomes which are beneficial to the company. And I like it that you got back to the area where you have a long-term experience, which is finance, and use their topics or areas of improvement, let's say it that way, where you could fill the gap in certain aspects, and where you could really show the beneficial part of having this governance or this disciplines, not only governance, but quality-wise, data quality, process efficiency, and so on, addressed. So you not even took, I would say, a quick win in that sense. You took really something which has on a longer scale or on a long-term period, even a benefit to the company.
And that's also a sense for us, because this specific part, right, to secure the quality, this ultimately gives you some kind of North Star, right, to connect the dots and secure that your data, because at the end, it flows into the financial statements, right? So if you clean that part, you have already something a little bit reliable. Going back to the roadmap, it was very important, I think, in the context of Met, because this is still a relatively young company with a culture of being very focused, right? So we have a target, an objective, and we focus on it and we achieve it, right? So in other environment, you might spend more time to develop and fit your strategy into a global strategy, and connecting with other functional strategies and so on. This was not something which was expected, or this was something that would have been very, I wouldn't have created a lot of engagement in that. While even, of course, if it sounds a bit like, after a couple of weeks, you are still at the beginning of hiring the people who are going to work with you, and then you present something which is kind of a 2-3 years roadmap where you say, okay, we are going to work with these people and we are going to achieve this. And you have just started to engage very briefly with them, right, on a common ground of understanding, which is very limited, and you already commit for something, right, relatively precise. That's of course doesn't feel like the most comfortable, but this was also key for engaging. And what we see as a result of that is that this roadmap is just developing, right? In the sense, so there are more and more stakeholders, more and more needs, because the more you learn, the more you discover, and so on. So we have more items, and sometimes it slides a little bit, right, to be a bit longer, because usually you always have this over-optimistic thing, but globally, I think we are relatively there, right? So this is also the benefit sometimes of experience, right? Sometimes you don't have all the information actually, but you still manage to create something which is not too far away.
Thomas, you're very enthusiastic if it comes to football, right?
I like it, definitely. I definitely like it.
You like it even to the extent that I think you are a trainer also.
I'm coaching little boys.
Yeah. And our next activity is about finding the right players. Okay. Yeah. So we will go over to the screen. Cool. I have prepared a little bit, something small, and I would like to see how your starting 11 looks for digital transformation.
Okay. Cool. Let's do that.
Now, explaining a little bit the setup. Yeah, we have here a football field, as we said. You're also a trainer. If you're not training at the Met, you train on the football pitch. And now making a little bit the translation into football, where you have also processes, roles, responsibilities, and so on. I would like to hear your opinion on maybe the first question of this activity is, if we think in sense of players that you need to have, and then there's a long list here of players or roles, from data management, analytics, process, IT management, and even project management. Most of them represent even roles that you have at Met, under your governance concept or the governance concepts that you have. So it's not a complete full list. We can really talk about if there's something missing or some role is missing or how we mean it. But if we think now about starting 11 for a data-driven transformation, what roles would come into your mind that you see here, and where would you place them on the pitch?
That's a good question. So basically, if I have to start, and I had to start, right? We need to start by building our own functions, right? Because if we don't have our own processes to manage data, to produce analytics, to manage the process management, we just don't do it, right? So if I would have to pick, I need to create a bit the team of the Chief Digital Officer, right? So there would be a data governance manager, there would be a data architect, there is even a data quality manager, but I don't know if I have enough players now. So if I really have to select, I would say data governance manager, data architect. Then you have the data product implementation, right, responsible. So this would be concretely my BI managers, my data engineers, right? Implementation better. And they will also do the maintenance, of course, as well. These are the roles, let's say, to start. And then on the process management side, process manager, because someone has to define how we manage processes. Right. So, and in addition, my process managers were so good that they also define how we manage projects. And finally, of course, we need an IT enterprise architect, because in this entire, very vast landscape, if we want to start connecting the dots, it's important that we have also transparency on the IT applications. And this is exactly what the IT enterprise architect. So I don't know how many I've selected now, 5, something like this. We can. So this is, so almost half of the team is kind of own roles under the direct leadership of the Chief Digital Transformation Officer, because you need to build these functions.
So brilliant. I really like that. So where would you place the data governance manager on the pitch?
That's the good question, right? I mean, a little bit more on the defense side, because of course there is an element of enabling the data quality, right? So the data architect, the data governance manager together, they should sit somewhere in a defensive midfield, right? Because they are also propelling the rest of the organization, right? It's a major enabler.
Yeah, I like that. Nice. And then you had from analytics, you mentioned the data product implementation responsible. Yeah. Where would you place that?
Yeah, they are a bit more to the front, right? They get an easier, let's say, change management job, right? Because usually when you develop a beautiful report or dashboard, people immediately love you. So this is their advantage there. So they get a bit more fame and a bit more recognition.
So they're strikers or midfielders?
Yeah, maybe strikers then.
Nice. So they're consuming the data in that sense, yeah, and producing. Yeah. And then you had.
We said the process manager, right? So the process manager, I would even put them, let's say, lower, right? And then this is from where everything is starting almost.
So it's here, even defensor.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, we place them in here.
Because at the end, to be able to start this digital transformation journey, we need to bring a process view, right? Because what is transformed at the end, yes, we transform the ways of working, so there is a change on the people side, but what is really transformed at the end is a process that has been is now just performed in a different way, right? And this is where and to be able to transform this process, first you have to know how to manage process, how to recognize process, how to name processes, right? All these things don't exist, so the process manager is really at the very bottom of it.
IT, you mentioned the IT enterprise architect.
Yeah, also good question where to place it. So here again, it was about creating a lot of transparency, right? And being able to, so the IT enterprise architect is also getting a bit of a more recognition, right? Because IT applications are not abstract, they are concrete. There is a product, there is a software with a marketing associated to it, so the name speaks to people. So this job is also more easy from a change management perspective. Then it's also quite foundational. So I don't know where we put that job. Maybe this is the question. I mean, the way that we use it definitely is a bit more on the side, right? So this is something that we leverage to bridge basically to the implementation, to bridge to the physical world, right? But the core is much more conceptual.
Okay, let's say he's a fullback in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, like that.
I mean, the guy on the wing, right, which is going to the front and to the back, because they can do also very, very hard work, right, when it comes to connect the physical data model with the conceptual data model, right? This is also a work which is pretty tough. And they will come to the front, right, to show at the end what is the IT application landscape and so on, and everyone will like it and everyone will understand it. So there is this capacity, let's say, to go, to the back and to the front.
Okay, so we have 5 players on the field. You are good to go for another 6. Yeah. So who else would you include in your starting 11?